I'm Brandon Clark. This is my co-host Swall Hall, and today we're meeting on Uncommon Ground. So we have a lot to talk about. We're going to start the episode talking about the tragic shooting in Minneapolis. Obviously, our hearts go out there. We'll get more into that. Then the chorus story for those less online, terminally online. It's Democrat influencers. There's been an article that I guess some have been paid by dark money, secret sources. It's all contested. We'll get into what's true, what we think, if any of it's ethical or not. And then we'll talk about 2028, who me and Swall both would like as our candidates to become the hopeful president. And we're going to end with claim for claim. If you guys watched last week, we're going to have some hot takes. I tried to get some spicier ones this week. Swall's coming with the heat again, obviously. So stick around for that. We'll probably describe it a little bit more one more time before we get in, since it is a newer segment. To start, in Minneapolis, there was a shooting at a Catholic school. It was while they were attending mass, so they were at a church. It left 2 children dead. As of right now, there's 18 injured and 3 adults also that were injured. The shooter fired from outside through the window of the church. They found his manifesto. This is a guy who was like obsessed with mass shooters. He had hateful remarks for like multiple groups. It just seems like he kind of wanted to just do this thing. There were kind of the signs there. Swa, I guess first I am curious your thoughts on the shooting. I'm sure this kind of hits a little close to home, being it was a Catholic school. So, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, obviously, this is a horrendous, evil act. This is a tragedy. Anytime anyone dies, it's a tragedy, but especially when it's children, when it's innocence, it's just heartbreaking. Um, yeah, I believe that it was at the Annunciation of Mary Catholic School, and so yeah, I mean, school shootings are already a tragedy, but when you're in a praise and worship setting, worshiping God, it's supposed to be a peaceful, transcendent experience. It sounds even worse. Yeah, it's not good. So I believe the FBI is treating it right now as a potential hate crime. They're trying to figure out kind of. I mean, he left the manifesto, but they're trying to figure out if they're going to classify it as domestic terrorism or not. Um, but yeah, like you said, it seemed like he hates multiple groups. He talked about the Jews. He talked about, obviously, he targeted the Catholics. And there was a survivor, thank God, a 10-year-old boy who survived, but he's got a bullet lodged in his cardioid artery. He should make a full recovery, but obviously the emotional trauma is going to be, if there is even a recovery there, it's going to take a lot of time. Pope Leo already came out and spoke on this. He said and called for an end to the pandemic of arms, as he put it. Um, and so my view on this is always been pretty in the middle. I'm a pacifist on a personal level. So I don't own a gun. I have no intentions of ever owning a gun. I have no intentions of ever touching a gun. I think that um, their very existence invites these types of things. However, their very existence necessitates that the good guys have them if the bad guys have them, is kind of the view that I take. And so I don't really know what a practical way to deal with gun violence is, because, yeah, somebody who's going to use guns to shoot people is going to get guns whether they're legal or not. So it doesn't really seem to me that that's going to do anything. And then obviously there is the mental health aspect of this, which is nobody who goes into a school to shoot people is mentally stable. That's just definitionally, you're not mentally stable if you do that type of action or think that that type of action is okay. So I'm not sure what the right answer is there either. Obviously, more resources to mental health research and facilities, more, I don't know if rooms is the right term, but more space in these facilities to take people in and help with their disabilities and struggles mentally. But I know that they have pledged for increased security around the schools. Obviously, that's something that we can do. But at the end of the day, this is just going to continue to happen until we deal with either the mental. I think we got to deal with both of them, the guns and the mental, and it can't just be one or the other. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think that something has to be done to address mental health. I think that there needs to be community interventions. I think schools like need to have therapists and counselors, like places that kids can go when they need to. Obviously, me and you both support universal health care, like things like being able to go into like a mental health clinic or get therapy, something like that should be accessible for everyone. We totally agree there. We probably, I don't know what your full opinion on gun control is, but if you're anti-gun yourself, we probably don't disagree on a lot. I think I personally support like banning assault weapons. I know the shooter used a rifle. I don't know the exact weapon he used, but I think we should ban assault weapons. That's what's typically used in mass shootings. I think that we should have like strict laws like the universal background checks. I think things like the red flag laws. I know that in this case, the police had been in talks with the shooter's parents prior to the shooting about like different things like behavior wise and calls and stuff. So I think in cases when that happens, there should always be the ability to remove guns from the household. Like I always think it's especially tragic when we learn that like the cops had talked with the parents or knew that this person like had possibly had thoughts like this or something, and then nothing was done. And it's like, what are you there for? Like, I mean, to pull up 10 minutes after something happens and shoot somebody's dog or something, like it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. um but that's my thoughts, and it should be a lot harder to get a gun. I do agree that good people should be able to have them, but I just think that the standard to get them, like in our state, you can just walk in my city, you can walk in a Royal King and you can walk out in 15 minutes with a gun. You answer a couple questions and you give them your ID and you're out in 15 minutes. I think that's insane.
I agree. I think license. I think that that's sort of obvious to me,
Mhm.
that it should be universalized across the country, just the way that to operate a heavy machinery like a car, I have to go through, I believe, what is it, 6 months of driving hours or whatever. Then you got to do the book test. Then you got to do the driving instructor test. And then you get your license. But even then, if you're not old enough, you still can't drive around like other people and put them in danger until you, I think, hit 18, unless it's family members, because they still don't really fully trust you.
Yeah.
And that's just driving a car, which, I mean, obviously, there's thousands of car deaths as well every year, but it feels like guns, which their main goal is to kill something or at least seriously injure it, should have at least that, if not more. So, like, you have to go to the range or whatever with an instructor um, supervising you for like a 6 month period, or maybe you got to
And
clock 90 hours or something.
not only that, but you should have to take de-escalation training as well. You
Yes,
should have
yeah,
to take courses to
de-escalation.
learn how to de-escalate without
Yes.
bang, like you don't have to use it just because you have it.
And like, I know they have, I don't know if this is the exact mental health expert that you would want, but like, even like, I know they have the people who kind of work with the police and fire department and stuff, for like, to tell people that, like, hey, your child was killed or your whatever was killed. And those people can tell when they deal with a lot of traumatic stuff. So maybe those are the people we want talking to these people and filtering, seeing if they have trauma in their lives that could spike or kind of creep up on them, or I don't know, but they need to go through a mental health check. Like, there needs to be, I don't, dude, I need, like, there's 90 hours to get your real estate license or
Yeah,
to sell insurance.
yeah,
Like, but getting a gun, no.
nothing.
And so
It's just
that's insane.
It's just, oh, you're 18. Yeah, go ahead. And then, yeah, I've always thought that was kind of crazy. And then there's no like bar, like you can be depressed, you can have anxiety,
Right.
you can have anger
Right.
issues, like you can have all this. And all you have to do in Indiana, like, I mean, you just put in that, nope, I don't have that. They don't check
Yep.
at all. There's no
They're like,
test,
oh, okay.
nothing. It's just like, no, I don't have these problems. It's like, oh, okay, here you go, sir. Like, and I just think
Right.
all of that's kind of crazy. I agree. There should be like licenses. There should be like, I also think there should be with first aid, you have to renew it every couple years. Like, I think
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Not
the,
just a license for life. I mean, even,
exact,
I mean, hey, I mean, we don't have to do the test again, but even your
just like a
driving
psych
license
eval.
expires.
Yeah,
Like,
and you just come
yeah.
back in
So,
for a psych eval every 2 years. I'm cool with that.
right.
We're good. Make sure you're cool. But yeah, do you have anything else for?
uh, no, just psych eval, and then maybe after a certain point, kind of like with like 80, 90-year-olds driving cars and stuff, eventually they kind of are like,
Yeah.
no, this is
Yeah.
ours now. We're taking the license. There
Yeah.
needs to be like you don't want some trimmer guy with a gun. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
as you age,
Mm.
you're gonna want probably more than just a psych eval, maybe some sort of physical examination as
Yeah.
well, because
Climb
you
this
don't
rock
want
if you can't get to the top. We're taking
yeah,
you
yeah.
down.
Climb this yeah, something like that.
Something, yeah. But yeah, moving on. The next one is Chorus, which is the organization. For those who don't know, Taylor Lorenz she's like a lefty journalist, left lib progressive. I don't know how she describes herself. She's a journalist. She's done like multiple stories. She did like something. She's the one who did I don't know if you're familiar with Libs of TikTok, Swab, but
Mhm,
there was
mhm.
like the whole interview where she got caught and she's talking to someone that was Taylor Lorenz. She has like a couple big stories or whatever. Well, she released this piece about Democrat influencers who are receiving dark money, she calls it. She says that it's secretly they're funding these influencers kind of behind the door that nobody knew. I say it with quotations and in that way because it is kind of contested. If you're on Twitter, you've seen like a lot of these influencers. I know David Pakman, Brian Tyler Cohen, there's a lot of them like that. They came out and said like, hey, like this is on the website. It's not something that we were told not to disclose. So it's kind of up in air as to, is it dark money? Is it secret? But they were getting paid. It was up to $8,000 a month, depending on kind of, I think probably like account size and to what extent they were in the program. The question is kind of, I guess, just the efficacy or the efficacy, I mean, to say, of this. Like, is this okay? I think it exists on both sides. For me, I don't have a problem with influencers getting paid. I do think that it should be disclosed. It should be transparent if it's going to happen. And my biggest concern would be like, are they controlling your content? Because then I would think that's probably unethical. But if you're just like getting sponsorships, if it's like a sponsorship type of thing, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I am curious kind of what your thoughts are, and then we can dive even more into it.
Yeah, when you say controlling your content, you mean like telling you what to say?
Yeah,
People who are
yeah,
paying
like,
you. Okay,
I'm gonna pay you and you're gonna toe the party line.
right, right. Yeah, so yeah, dark money. Love that term. It's
Mhm.
pretty epic sounding. Yeah, I would say the vast majority of influencer content, we have no idea who's paying them, how they're getting paid. Obviously, if it's their full time job, they're making money off of it. So it's not like I don't know why people are acting like, what? These people are getting paid? Like, duh, obviously. Now, as far as the ethics, so I don't know how you where you stand with the term ethical versus moral, but I think um, ethics is more about like social stuff, society. It's more like opinion based. It's just like that's kind of icky to do, but it's not
Mm.
necessarily like you're condemned to hell or you should be put in
Yeah.
jail or like it's not really like a moral thing. It's just kind of like that's not like the best. It's not
Yeah, I would
tactical.
say it's more about, yeah, like conforming to like the societal standard would be
Yeah.
ethical, and then
So that's
breaking
kind of
that.
how I use it. So I would agree that it's like unethical to take the money and not disclose, hey, I'm being, paid to talk about
Would you
like
say it was
I
immoral?
I I wouldn't say it's necessarily immoral because I think moral has more to do with duty and like what you should do rather
Mhm.
than like what you should do to appease society. That's kind of a different thing.
So would
Um,
you I guess here the question I guess would be, because for me the answer is yes. I'm curious for you. Would you take money to do this show if somebody was like, hey, we'll pay you thousands of dollars a month to do this show? Just,
to are they going to tell me what to say?
no.
Just to do the show? Yeah,
Yeah.
I take some money
I
from
would
some
too, and that's
sponsors.
why. So for me, it seems like, as
Yeah,
to what has been out in the public, it seems like I wouldn't have a problem with what's happening, because I would do
yeah,
it. I would
yeah.
disclose it. I would, we would do an
Yes,
episode where,
me
the
too.
top of the episode, we would be like, hey, we're now sponsored by so and so. Whoever wants to sponsor us, shout you out.
Squarespace.
Yeah, well, yes, there you go, Squareplace. Good stuff, right? But so I don't know. Dark money is also like, I was watching Destiny, actually, of all people. I saw a clip of him on X, and he was talking about this, and he's like, dark money is such like a just like vague term. It's hard to pinpoint what it even could be. Like if you're on YouTube and we get like a super chat, it's like, how are we to know, like just from like a random account, how are we to know that's not from like a corporation that's like paying us because we're saying something they like, and
Right.
like what could qualify as dark money. So like epic term, but it's like I don't really know even what
Oh
it,
yeah, it doesn't mean anything, but
yeah.
it sounds really enticing. Yeah,
So
yeah. And to clarify, I don't think taking money is unethical at all. What I was saying was unethical would be taking
the
the money and then
non-disclosure.
not disclosing
Yeah.
it. But I don't think that's like I don't think you owe. I mean, maybe from like a gratitude standpoint, you owe your audience, but like it's not their show, so like you don't like owe them. That's why I don't
Mm.
think it's like a moral thing. I think it's just like the more ethical thing to do. Um, but I don't think it's like some moral atrocity or anything.
What would your thoughts be? Because the kind of the claim, I guess, the argument against them is that they were controlling their content. What people are
Yes.
using is that obviously a lot of these creators weren't talking about Gaza. I think that's the usual point.
Okay.
Though I will say, like in the air of fairness, there have been shown a couple creators in this that have talked about it, which kind of like breaks it apart. But just speaking to the claim, right? I guess that hey, like whatever,
Yeah.
whoever's paying you is controlling you to either not say something or say specific things or whatever, what would your opinion then be?
Well, I know you're asking about the broad topic there, not the specifics about Gaza or whatever. But with that one specifically, it's a difficult thing to deal with because obviously there's the anti-Semitic dog whistle of the Jews running everything, and so when you're like, they won't talk about Israel Palestine, they won't talk about Gaza because they're in Israel's pocket. Israel's, it's hard to parse that from conspiracy nonsense from maybe that is you know what I'm saying.
Oh,
So
I agree
that
with
topic
you. It
right there
sounds
is a
mostly like
difficult one
conspiracy nonsense. Yeah.
um, difficult one to deal with. But then, like, what was that thing with the conservatives? Was it Russia?
Yeah.
There's like
With
Tim
Tim Pool
Pool
and all
and
them. Yeah.
I know Dave Rubin
Dave
is
Rubin.
not
Yeah.
a conservative.
Yeah. And Benny
Okay,
Johnson, if
but it that was hilarious when that came out. But yeah, I don't know. I think to answer the broader question, when they're telling you what to say, I think that becomes way more problematic. Again, I don't know if I'll go as far as to say immoral because again, you're just essentially if we take a step back and take our emotions out of it, you're getting paid to do a service for people who wanted to pay you to do a service, which is
so
to talk about these points.
what
I
if we
don't know
take
that.
what if we
Go
take
ahead.
the what if we take like the dark money out of it? Because this is kind of what I've been thinking, and I would like if I think of it this way, I don't know if I would even consider it unethical. Let's say like the DNC, and then on the other side the RNC pay influencers,
Right.
to go and just hey, do a podcast or whatever, and like
Yeah.
toe the party
Right.
line. I don't even know if I would really consider that unethical necessarily. I would think the
Yeah.
unethical part solely lies in the non-disclosure of like
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
telling people almost. Or if it's like, I think there is a bit of like even maybe not immorality, but it's definitely unethical if it comes from like dark, like if you're getting it from Russia, like Russia's paying you to say things, or if like China's paying you to say things. I think that's a bit different, but
When
like,
you're like an actual trader,
yeah,
yeah, that might
exactly.
make a difference.
Yeah,
Um,
but
that and what else could make it potentially unethical and now verging potentially into the moral sphere would be like for me, obviously everyone knows staunch pro lifer. If I was getting paid to like talk pro choice standpoints, like literally the opposite, now I'm not being in, there's no integrity. Now I'm not being an integral person. Like I'm not because I'm lying. I'm
yeah,
selling out. Like now, I think that would also be unethical if it's like, which is like you hear a lot with like the bigger influencers and stuff that they only take sponsors of products that they like
yeah,
test out or like think people might actually like or be interested in. They're not just going to sell you
whatever.
some random. I mean, there are people who do that, but most of the people claim that they're like I actually use Squarespace for my website and blah 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 blah. So
Riley Gaines posted a ivermectin sponsorship on X. She said, "Take this for back to school so you can be healthy." I thought that was great. So
but the problem is Riley Gaines probably believes
yeah, yeah, maybe.
that. So,
Do you have
so
do you have
that's
anything else on the dark money Democrats?
no. I mean, obviously, best case scenario, I would prefer for everyone to be transparent. I think it helps with um, civic life we already have such a problem with trusting our establishment. So like
Yeah.
adding the influencers as liars in there too, it doesn't help anybody. So like I don't think it's I'm not jazzed about this, but again, I don't think it's some like horrendous. It's not as bad as topic one, like it's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
that
yeah, yeah,
bad.
definitely. So yeah, 2028, SWA, who's your candidate and why?
So I listed a few people. I wasn't sure if we were just picking one or
Yeah,
just
yeah,
listing a
go ahead.
couple
I kind of have
ideas.
I have a couple as well. I have
Um,
definitely nots, and then my, preferred.
yeah, it's a very difficult. Now, I don't know if you were going off of like people who are like realistic, like these might actually be
Yeah.
running or
So
not.
I
I
guess
was just,
before
yeah.
your wills, do you have any definitely nots?
Oh, I mean, definitely not. Well, I mean, he doesn't qualify, I guess. Definitely not Trump.
Yeah.
Um, definitely
Vance?
not Kamala Harris.
Okay.
Vance is not on my definitely not, but he's not on my.
Okay.
I don't know enough about him to be honest. Like,
Yeah.
I don't really like the guy all that much as
No,
what I've
no
seen, but
conservatives specifically on your definitely not though, outside of obviously Trump who can't run. But
not off the top. But I'm not like an expert on
yeah.
senators, congressmen, and
All right.
I only
So
know like the
who?
famous
So
ones.
that makes me even more interested. Then I'm glad I asked. Who are your?
Yeah, my first one's probably going to surprise you because he's a Democrat. Joe Manchin. I don't know
Oh no.
yeah, yeah. So mainly because he's one of the few pro-lifers out there as a Democrat, and he wants healthcare reform. So he was one of the few politicians who have more than one of my stances at a time. And pro-life being a pretty high one. That one was basically I was basically looking for someone who is pro-life and then has at least one other stance that I support. So
Okay.
he fits that. I had Marco Rubio. He's obviously pro-life, and then he's a little bit more moderate for a Republican. I had Josh Hawley. He talks about parent tax credit, healthcare cost relief, pro labor moves, stuff like that. And then I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but Henry Suler. He's uh, current currently claims to be pro life, and supports a secure border. So those are the only people I could find who had like more than one thing. Of
That is a random bunch of candidates. Yeah, I
yeah,
didn't. I thought I honestly thought Vance would either definitely be on your
he would be my
dots or
honorable
your
mention
wills.
just
Yeah, I
because he's
Catholic.
already president. He's
Yeah,
supposedly Catholic.
yeah.
Um,
He wants a
obviously,
nationwide abortion ban.
yeah, obviously pro life. So like he's there, but I just think that he's is somewhat unlikable.
Yeah,
I've gathered from both sides
yeah,
don't seem to like him all that much. So
yeah. I hate him. Yeah, I also don't think I think he's the worst person you guys could elect personally. I don't know. I think that lowers your chances. But yeah, my
yeah,
definitely
that's
not.
yeah.
I don't want a centrist. I don't want Kamala Harris to run again. I don't want a celebrity like Jon Stewart. These are kind of like my hard nose. I don't want another like Bidenite type candidate. My candidate, so my candidate, I guess, prior to the last couple, it's actually changed the last month or so. My candidate prior coming into this would have been Gretchen Whitmer, right? She's like my ideal. She supports a lot of the policies I do, like free school lunches and breakfast, universal health care, pro-choice, obviously, like all the things I would line up with. She was probably definitely going to run. She's the governor in Michigan. So I always pushed for her. I like Marianne Williamson. That's who I voted for in the Democratic primary. In 2024, I think she's probably not. It's probably past her chance. She missed her chance having tried twice and lost now and not being from politics. And then she tried for the DNC chair and lost that. But so getting into my who, I think it's largely more so because I think he really understands the new media environment, which is, I think a lot of Democrats fail to do so. And so it's Gavin Newsom, right? I think that Gavin Newsom is almost definitely going to be the Democratic candidate as well, just with how he's like gearing up and running. But I think he understands how to meet the moment on social media media, how to like, he started his own podcast, talking to people on the right. He's like doing all the things I think a lot of Democrats would fall short to do. I think he would also torch Vance in a debate, who is probably going to be the conservative candidate. So like, he did it to Ron DeSantis. He did Ron DeSantis real shiesty in a debate. So I don't agree with him on a lot of things. I disagree with a lot of his policies on homelessness. People on my channel would know that, but yeah, I think he's a progressive. He's progressive enough. He's on the right side of more issues than he's not. And I think that he gets it. So he's who I would support.
Obviously, I'm not in the progressive circles really. But my general vibe on Newsom is, and California, is that California is cooked. Is that not the opinion on the progressive side?
No, I think that California is like kind of just the punching bag for the right. I don't think that the sentiment holds the same on the left. And a lot of people really like Gavin Newsom, at least in an electability standpoint. And I think his weakness is probably appealing to like Midwest. I think the same as how kind of like
Maybe, yeah, maybe that's why. Just because where we're at, I'm
yeah,
hearing because
Kamala
I feel
Harris kind of got the, San Francisco liberal title. I think that Gavin Newsom kind of would get that too. So
yeah, I just feel like I basically I don't think it's just the punching bag. I think of the right. I feel like California is the punching bag of the country. At least that's how it feels for me. It feels like everyone is like, well, obviously there's the Hollywood, LA, which is sort of an isolated part of it, of like all these celebrities that we all think are out of touch that we all don't like, and then there's like the homeless issue, um, that is united on both sides. Like, and then there's the, I know he's more like a classical liberal or whatever, more of a centrist now. But like the Joe Rogans and some people who are like somewhat left, who are like, we got to get out of here. This place is cooked. We're gone. So it feels like the whole country sort of had this vibe of like, fuck California. Everything else is good, but like, we
yeah, I don't
got to
know if
get out
Joe
of this
Rogan's
state.
left, but also like I mean California is like a model for like healthcare. They have like some of the best healthcare access, especially like mental health care access. They set the standard definitely on like LGBTQ acceptance, which is like a huge thing for the left. Obviously, you would disagree with that, but like on the left, that's a big thing. Public education, they're on any list you look at, they're like top 5. They're top 1 on a lot of them. We've covered that on my show a bunch. So and a lot of the things the left care about, they're good at. They also have really strict gun laws that leads to them having low per capita gun deaths. I think only like a couple states beat them. New York is one of them. But they set the standard in that as well. So like, there's a lot of ways in which they have a $15 minimum wage. They have the
Well, you have to.
fourth
That place
largest
is so
GDP.
expensive. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, fourth largest GDP in the world, though. They're like a leader in business startups. So like they have a lot of things going for them as well.
Yeah, I was just curious what the sentiment was, and yeah, I know Joe. When I said left, I mean like he's part of that camp, like Bill Maher, who would say,
Yeah,
"We didn't, you know, everyone just moved left of us.
yeah.
We're just
But Piers
what we've
Morgan is
always
also
done."
Piers Morgan is
Yeah,
also
and
in that camp.
so I'm more talking about that camp, which to me, granted, like you said, we're in the Midwest, so maybe we're just even the leftists here skew centrist or right
See,
wing.
I think like liberals love him, and it's like weird because he
Love
used to be
Joe or
seen
love Newsom?
Gavin Newsom. It's weird
Oh,
because he
okay,
used to be seen as this like left progressive guy, and now it's like the Biden liberals love him, and like the left doesn't. So who
like
knows? Who
when
knows
you
what
say
will
the
happen?
left, you mean like the progressives?
The progressive left, yeah.
Okay,
The further left you go, the
interesting.
less they like Newsom now because of like, I
So
mean,
it's probably just my bubble then.
yeah,
Yeah,
but
but okay.
yeah, I think he's definitely going to be the candidate. But yeah, no, that's my opinion. I support him
I
now.
forget. Did you say you didn't like Mansion
No, I do not like Manchin. Fuck no.
because
No.
he's pro life or other reasons?
Oh God. I mean, yeah, because he's pro-life, because he blocked now I'm thinking Build Back Better. I was thinking Big Beautiful Bill. It was like the other triple B one, the Biden
Yeah,
one, Build Back Better with there was like the that would have raised minimum wage. There was a lot of things in that I supported. It would have had expanded even more Medicaid access and Medicare access. And he blocked that because like, "Oh, we can't do that. And it would have had a public option, stuff like that I supported. He was like, no, we can't.
gotcha.
So I
And
disagree with
then,
him. I think he should.
do you know Henry Suler at all?
No,
I
I
don't know
think
if
it's
you
Sular or something like that, but
Sular, yeah.
I don't
Me
really
neither.
know him that
Yeah,
much.
me
He's
neither.
like, I can't even think. Is he like in Texas? He's like a,
Yeah, he's in Texas.
I was
He's
about to
like
say he's like a, yeah, a Congress member, right? In the
yeah,
House or
yeah,
something.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I kind of know, but I don't know.
I didn't know him until I was looking up candidates with my views,
Yeah.
and he was like, I think it said there's some organization. It's like Democrats for Life or something. I don't think that's the official title,
Oh
but it's
God.
something like that. And he's like one of the few people
Yeah,
that they
defund
endorsed.
that right now.
Uh,
Unseat that man right now. But yeah, no.
but
So
yeah,
yeah, claim for claim. For those who didn't watch last week, we each have three claims. They are hottest takes. We're going to give them kind of Jubilee fashion, how, they would sit there and make a claim and then they'll discuss it for a little bit. I'll make a claim, we'll discuss. Swal will make a claim, we'll discuss, and we'll go through and through till we get through all of our claims. My first one, is that white privilege is real and every white person benefits from it. I don't know if this is considered spicy to Swa being also a brown person. I guess we'll find out, but I think it's a hot take for enough people at least. The problem I think with people accepting this is semantically, nobody wants to feel privileged. There's plenty of people who like their understanding of privilege. They're like, well, I'm not rich, I'm not wealthy, so how can I be privileged? And I can understand that, but it's more or less the understanding that there are barriers that exist in society for Black people that don't exist for white people. I would say those barriers, I heard someone describe them more so as hills now, like, right, like we've erased the barriers, but now they're hills, whereas like a white person is kind of on a level playing field. Black people still have an uphill battle to get where they need to go. If a white person is like poor or something like that, you can obviously, or not obviously, you can often trace that back to choices or something of the sort. With Black people, often it's circumstance. They're more likely to be born into poverty. They're less likely to get accepted for loans, less likely to get called back on applications. Black women make 64 cents to the dollar for that a white man makes. Like things like that, that just place circumstance of like an uphill battle that white people don't have to go through. And that's the privilege that every white person has.
do you think it's the white privilege is the only one, or would you say white privilege, Asian privilege, Black privilege, Mexican privilege?
Uh,
Everybody's got privileges, and they vary in amount, or would you say no, just white
No,
privilege?
not in the way that I'm talking about. I don't think that there's barriers and hills and such that like white people face that like Black people don't, right? I think that like white people have better experiences with police, are more likely to own property, they're more likely to be paid more. So I think like across the board, there's
What
just
about Asians or Mexicans?
I don't, I mean, what, like, I think that there's the same. I think that they, like, the privileges, I don't know what exactly you're asking. Like, do they have privilege or are they victims
Yes,
of
yes,
this as well?
yeah. I'm asking if they have privilege.
No, I don't think so. I definitely not Mexicans for sure. Asian people, I don't think so at all. I think that there's been some, I think when there was like the affirmative action stuff, there was like, I can't remember if they were more likely, if they were overrepresented in education or underrepresented, but like, I don't think that it exists for other races. No.
Interesting. Yeah, obviously, well, I guess not obviously. You said you didn't know. I disagree. I think to whatever degree white privilege exists, uh, male privilege exists, female privilege exists, tall people privilege exists, short people privilege exists. I think everyone has disadvantages and advantages depending on their specific circumstances. And so I don't think it's just like a white thing. I think that there are
Oh, I
lots of,
think
for instance,
racially. Oh, sorry, I'll let you finish.
oh no, I was just gonna say, like for instance, this is a minor thing, but it is a privilege. For instance, tall privilege. If you're a short man, the chances of you finding a spouse or a mate, if you're straight, are lowered because of a cultural beauty standard for men for being tall, dark, and handsome, or tall and strong and built. And just taller guys. If he ain't 6 foot, I'm not dating him, type of thing. So there's a privilege. It's a small one, but
Yeah,
just
no, I would
based on
say
your
one, that's
genetics.
not
And
only not the same, but two, I would say other kinds of privilege exist, but racially only white privilege exists. I think that other kinds of privilege exist and it's not fair. Like I know that men often get sentenced harsher in like the criminal justice system, right? So you could say that like females have a bit of privilege there, and I would say that they probably do. And I think that that is unfair. And I think it's something that also needs addressed. I would disagree that like tall privilege is like a thing because there's things that a tall person could do to escape that circumstance. They could like get a job, like they're not going to be hindered from getting a better job because they're tall. That could then allow them to get more money, and then being wealthier makes you more likely to be able to get a spouse. And like there's things you could do, whereas like for a black person, there's nothing that they could do to
wait,
make it less likely that a
say that
cop
again
or an officer stops them.
about tall people. I'm confused.
You're
You
saying, you
said
said that tall people, or well, you said, I guess it was short people specifically, would not have, or tall people have a privilege because short people are disadvantaged in
yes,
dating or something. And I'm
yeah,
saying that, well, short people can do other things to kind of better their odds in the dating market, right? Whereas
yeah.
black
Well,
people,
but wouldn't that apply to
whereas
black people?
black people, there's nothing a black person can do to make it less likely
Yes, they
to
can.
get
They could.
stopped by a police officer. No, they're statistically just more likely to get stopped by a police officer. Juries are statistically more likely to convict them if they're in a video.
Well,
Jobs are less likely to call them back, right? They are statistically
no,
more likely to
no.
make
There are
less money
things you
on the
can do
dollar.
though. There are things you can do. If
No,
your name
because
is Jake, yes, there is. Listen,
these
if your name
statistical
is
outcomes are true
no,
regardless.
no, that doesn't make any sense. Of course, there's things you can do, and we know what they are. For
What
instance,
can you do to make it to lower the fact that you're more likely to get stopped by an officer? The Veil of Darkness study showed that
no,
black people are,
you don't get to pick the example. I'll give you examples, but
no,
there
that's
could
an
be
example.
specific.
That is
No,
an
I know, but
example
there,
of a barrier in which
yes, but
black
there
people
are.
face that
So,
white people do
but I'm not
not.
talking
That
about every barrier. I'm just saying, for instance, getting a job or whatever. Okay, if your name is Jaquan, you can legally change it to John. So when you put in an application, now it says John. That's something you can do, and
right,
that'll increase your chances. So that's just
right.
a lie that there's nothing you can do. If you
No,
talk in
if
Ebonics and you're more slang, you can start talking.
applications have you mark black African American on them, right? And then if you're talking, you can
Some
lie,
of them do.
sure, but then when you go to the interview one, they're going to see anyway. But then also you're still statistically more likely to make less on the dollar. You're still statistically more likely to get stopped by police. You're still statistically more likely to get sentenced longer for the same crime with the same background as a white person. Like all of these statistical outcomes are things you still cannot change no matter what, because you are always going to be black. That doesn't exist for these other kinds of things you're saying, but you
No,
could kind of we're like already getting like close, I feel like. So you can wrap up what your opinion would be and then you can move on to your claim.
we got 15 minutes. We got 15 minutes. Yeah, no, I mean, like I said, is that going to change every single aspect of it? No, that's just one change that can be made. Or like, um, are you trying to tell me if I'm like, hey, yo, man, I'm just looking for a job, yo, dog, I'm just trying to make some money for my girl back home versus, hello, sir, I would like to blah, 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 blah. When you're on the phone, you don't think that makes a difference? Obviously, it makes a difference. It would be asinine to say that it doesn't make a difference. So there are steps that you can take to
Well,
increase your
yes, that makes a
chances.
difference, and so does your skin color.
Yes, they both make a difference, but I'm
Right.
just saying there
Which
are
is
steps you
a
can take.
privilege that white people have that black people don't, because they don't have to experience that.
Yeah, no, we are in full agreement that there are privileges that white people have that black
Okay, so
people
my
don't
claim is
have.
true. All
I
right.
just think that
So
there
what's
are
your claim?
privileges that black people have that
Right.
white people don't have, or that Asians have that
Like
others.
what?
For like black people, for instance, there are programs and scholarships and um, businesses
Why
and
do
things
those
that are
scholarships
dedicated
exist? Why
towards
do the scholarships exist?
to try to lift black people out of lesser circumstance, what they
Because black
assume
people
are
are
lesser
statistically
circumstances.
less likely to receive scholarships
Yes,
because of
sure.
systemic disadvantages like redlining that they've been placed into, right? So like now you're like trying to say that things meant to quell the disadvantages that black people have been systemically placed into are
Yeah,
advantages for black people.
yeah. You're doing privilege swaps essentially. You're saying
Okay,
we got to move the privilege from this group to this other group because they had the
right,
privilege for too
right.
long, so now they get the privilege, which disadvantages
No,
the other
it's
group.
saying
So
we
then,
purposefully held this group back. So now we're going to fix to where they would have went had we not held them back this whole time. We're going to help them advance there because we understand
We don't
our
have time to debate whether they would have or would have not,
yeah.
but I don't think that
So
they would have gone.
what's your
They
claim?
would have gone. Well, now I thought there was five. I must have misremembered, so I made five of them. So now I get to pick which of the three that I want to do. I'll do this one because it's probably not. It's probably on par with what you said as far as spiciness. It's not crazy for a conservative. I think free speech should include speech that offends us. I think that if speech is only protected when it's polite or non-offensive, then that there's no reason for the amendment at all. There is that's not free speech at that point. And even from like a Catholic perspective, St. Thomas Aquinas talks about heretics need to be argued with, not just like burned at the stake necessarily. We should take their ideas and combat them. Um, and to back that up, 62% of Americans say the current political climate prevents them from expressing their belief. So if that's 62% and only 50% of the country are conservatives, then there's at least some lefties in there, liberals agreeing with that. So it's not just a one side issue. Um, and then Pew Research, 59% of Americans believe people should be allowed to make offensive statements publicly. So the majority of people think this way, but yet um, in practice, it doesn't always seem to go down that way. It seems that people want to continue to try to implement like hate speech laws and stuff like that. Luckily, we haven't fully given in here in America the way that some other countries have. But yeah, I pretty much think that you should own the consequences of what you say, and we shouldn't not let people say things just because it can hurt someone's feelings.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that we should only protect things that are more beneficial than harmful. I think a lot of things we ban or legislate around, we do so because it causes harm to others. Hate speech is strongly connected to negative mental health outcomes like depression or anxiety. Obviously, being bullied leads to these kinds of outcomes. These types of conditions lead to higher rates of suicidality. So there's a causal chain there of hate speech to suicide. And I think that that's something worth trying to prevent personally, right? And I'm not as free speech absolutist at all. So like I'm not like, well, free speech trumps that. I think we should probably protect vulnerable people over some weird right to free speech.
Yeah, I wouldn't say weird. I would say fundamental human right. My body, my choice. That's your guys' favorite thing. So you want to argue now it's actually your body, our choice, what you get to say with it, which is just a complete hypocritical stance for the left, in my opinion. But I would say that the truth becomes clearer when error is exposed, to quote Aquinas.
Right. I think
And so
everyone understands that my body, my choice doesn't mean you can use your body to cause harm to others, right? Like we don't say that we should be able to punch someone in the face because that's just an expression of our bodily autonomy, right? Like we understand that the principle kind of ends at harm.
yeah, and I would say that sticks and stones may break my bones. We've all learned this since we were little kids. And I would argue that much like with something like alcohol, alcohol doesn't make you beat your wife. You are already a wife beater, and then you drank, and it exposed what was already within you. If somebody says you're ugly, and then you go and kill yourself, you already had some mental issues. It doesn't
Yeah,
create them out of nothing.
that's just a large misunderstanding of psychology, I would say. But yeah, no, I would think personally, just for me, I think the principle is simple. I think that obviously bullying, hate speech is bullying. Bullying leads to suicide. We should try to prevent that. I think that that means more than free speech. That would be my opinion.
And I would say hate speech is not bullying. Bullying is repeated. So if you at which point we're or going into
That's
harassment.
just semantic. I think bullying is any action in which causes someone purposeful harm.
I mean, it's not semantic. It's in the law. Like it is. It has to be more than once to be qualified as bullying. So if I just like, hey, you're ugly, and never talk to that person again, it's not bullying. If I'm like, hey, you're ugly, and then tomorrow I'm like, hey, you're ugly, and then the next day,
Yeah,
now it's bullying because it's repeated.
I don't know. I one, just don't know if that's true. And two, just
I
semant
do because I
not even making a legal
expose
claim.
myself. I am an alleged
Yeah.
bully on my permanent school record
Yeah.
because
So I'm not making a legal claim. I'm just making a moral claim of bullying
sure,
is when you purposefully cause harm to somebody else. That leads to higher rates of suicide. I think we should try to prevent that.
sure, but the problem is purposeful. You're assuming intent,
Yes.
which may not exist. We're just talking about words that are offensive, so it may
Yes.
not be.
If you're
the-
using
but
a
the
word
intent.
and you know it's offensive and you're using it to someone who you know might be offended, then it's purposeful. That's intent. You do
Yes,
not.
but what if who gets to decide? So every word can be offensive then. And all words can. I can just say, for instance, calling me uh, a republic or using the term black. Maybe I feel like black is offensive.
Sure, I
Now
would
we
say
can't
any
use the
words in
term.
which you could tie to historical context of harm or statistical outcomes of harm.
Okay, so not just if it offends somebody.
No.
So then we.
Yeah, like I would ban, I'm fine
Ish.
banning the N-word, I'm fine banning racial slurs, I'm fine banning
Whoa,
misogynistic
banning
terms.
the N word. So even for our people.
I'm fine banning like the hard R racial slur
So not for our people then, I guess.
for anyone to say.
No,
it.
I mean like,
Anyone should say it.
what's up, my band?
I don't think that's a racial slur.
What if a white person says, "What's up, my"?
Well, yeah, well then, I mean, I think that that's shouldn't be banned, but I think that that's definitely distasteful.
Okay, fair enough. Let's go on to the next one. What's your next one?
High crime rates are an inevitable symptom of capitalism that only more socialized structures can address. Crime is a product of income inequality. Poverty creates the desperation, and the population density allows the opportunity. Both of these are the product of capitalism. For capitalism to thrive, there has to be winners and losers. For there to be rich, there has to be by relative amounts, those who are substantially less rich, who are poorer, and the consumerism that capitalism needs also that it needs to thrive incentivizes these kind of large, densely packed cities. Those two things together are what creates crime. We have pretty large statistical evidence of income inequality's relationship with crime. So capitalism creates the exact environment for crime to thrive, and socialized structures are what would best address that. Universal health care for mental health, a program that you support, UBI, could address poverty. It could be like My WIC for All. Socialized housing could also do so. The free market could never have the same effect, which is why we see the same cycle of crime.
Could you restate just the claim part? So I know.
High crime rates are an inevitable symptom of capitalism that only more socialized structures can address.
It's worded in a way where I can say like, maybe. Well, so I don't agree with the first half that it's intrinsic to high crime rates. I think there are.
Yeah, I think it
I
is.
think crime is intrinsic to it, but I wouldn't say necessarily high crime rates.
Sure, income inequality leads to higher crime rates. There's large
that
statistical
I
evidence
agree with.
linking these two.
If
And
that's
then,
how it was phrased, then you'd have 100%
right, so
agreement.
capitalism both creates winners and losers. For the rich it creates, there has to be substantially less rich people because there's owners and there's workers. There's CEOs who are going to make 350 times what their workers are making. That's going to be regular in capitalism. So this kind of income inequality is inherent in
Yeah,
capitalism.
when you say going to be, why?
What do you
Because
mean?
there's these
Because it's
for
the free
me.
market.
For me, it all comes down to. I mean, we all have free will, so it all comes down to choices. So there's nothing about like if you look up capitalism in the dictionary that's like, and as part of capitalism, CEOs must be paid 350K. So I wouldn't say it's like
Right,
intrinsic.
it's the free market, and we've just seen historically that's the conclusion of a free market, is that's what will happen. Without restriction,
So okay,
without
so
restrictions,
freedom of
CEOs, those at the top, will always enriching themselves drastically
and
more than what they do.
and then
to
how
workers.
are we defining? So like I like half agree and don't agree. So for instance, like I could build a company under capitalism that somehow becomes $1 billion company or whatever. I'm CEO. I could pay myself 150K, and I could make sure that every employee that I have gets 75 a year plus 9-month maternity leave and whatever benefits and whatever, and that's possible under capitalism. So therefore, it's not possible to say that it's intrinsic that it has to be the other way either. It's all just
No, it is
who is
intrinsic
in the
because
system
what is
of the
profitable
capitalism.
will win out on a macro level in capitalism, right? And
But that's a personal
that's
choice.
not profitable.
But that's
Right.
it's
What is
well,
more
it
profitable will win out, and it's just more profitable.
but it doesn't have
to
to. That's a personal choice.
But it just does. It's just the outcome of capitalism.
Which is why I'm saying it's
it is
it's
inherent
the
to capitalism.
it's inherent to
The free market.
imperfect people being in
Sure,
the
which
system.
humans are, right? Which means that capitalism, it will be
Right, but
capitalism.
what I'm
because
saying,
humans are
essentially, my
who rules
argument is
capitalism.
it can be solved theoretically. Now, whether you think in a practical sense or realistic sense, but theoretically, it can be
Socialized
solved
structures.
on a
I agree. You.
on a social level, as far as like, which potentially will one of my next topics will get there. But essentially, if we raised saints, made all of the next generation are just the best people we've ever had on the planet.
Yeah, I just don't
well,
think that's pragmatic. I don't think it's realistic.
So,
I don't.
but
think
theoretically, you would concede it is physically possible. There's nothing about the laws of the universe preventing that from happening.
No, I think human nature would prevent that from happening. Yes, I'm saying that I don't think that that's plausible.
You don't think it's possible for
No.
the majority of people to be
No.
good people?
No.
Damn. Would you call yourself? This is a separate thing. Would you say you're not? What's the opposite of optimist? Pessimist?
Pessimist? I don't know. I've never put much thought into that. I think I'm more optimistic than pessimistic.
Okay.
But yeah, what's your next claim?
My
My next one's the most spicy one of the three, so I'm ready for it.
Okay, I'm gonna do this one. Schools should form citizens, not activists, and not workers. Um, so I think public schools need to be if we're going to continue to have them, which is a different conversation. Uh, Public schools need to be redone from the ground up. I think kids need to be grounded in responsibility, honesty, service, and skills. I don't think we should be focusing on things like gender ideology. I don't think we should be focusing on things like imaginary numbers. I think that these types of things are a complete waste. I think that parents are the primary educators and that the schools exist to support that, not to replace it. And I think that we need to be teaching the kids things like personal finance, how to deal with credit, civics, like on a local, especially when it comes to local governance, car care, when to get an oil change, how to do an oil change, how to change your tire, how to drive, homemaking, how to do laundry, how to make natural cleaning supplies so you don't have to go to the store and buy Clorox or whatever. Those are the types of things. Community service, taking care of your neighbor, loving your neighbor as yourself, honesty, transparency, love, kindness, fruits of the spirit, stuff like that is what schools should be doing. So we're building people up to function in society and as citizens and to take care of their fellow man and to take care of themselves rather than, you know, like I said, imaginary numbers, quantum mechanics, none of that stuff matters. That's what college is for specialized studying. I think that more importantly, when we're dealing with kids, we should be forming them as holistic people. And so that's my hot take.
Yes, I mean, some of that I agree with, and some of that I really disagree with. I definitely think schools, first and foremost, should be about critical thinking, right? And then second should be about like the core fundamental skills like reading, writing, math, STEM, that kind of thing. I don't know how much I would say service and skills or things like that. I also don't know how much I think that I'm the opposite. I think that schools should absolutely be the place of instruction and that the household should be more so where morality and like this holistic person is built. I don't think that that is a place for schools. I think that it should be more critical thinking focused. But yeah, I don't know. I agree with you that there should be civics. There should be like a tax class. It shouldn't be I don't know. there shouldn't be like study hall and gym necessarily. I mean, gym to some extent, but like some of these classes could be replaced with more fun functional classes.
Study hall and gym is the wild two to pick though. For me, I mean, I'm not a big gym guy.
I think study hall is a waste of time for most people. Most people go to study hall and like sleep or just like don't really do. And then there's like one teacher for 28 people. So it's like if the thought is like, well, they're supposed to be in there doing homework and getting help where they're not really adequately going to get the help they need, I think it's just a waste of time.
Yeah, I mean,
I think you should just
you went
do
to public
homework at
school.
home with parents. Yeah. Yeah.
You said you should do homework at school or at
I
home
think
with
you should do
parents.
homework at home with your parents. I hate
Yeah,
that.
no, I think I don't know moral. I don't know if I want to morally load it, but I'm close to calling homework a moral abomination. You're gone for 8 hours of the day, and then
Yeah,
your
that's
few
insane.
hours of free time, you have to spend the next 3 hours doing homework, and then you sleep, and then you go back to being stuck at 8 hours a day doing
Yeah.
the work. You should be doing the work at school. That's what school's for. So I think it's an abomination to do homework at home. And in fact, as a student, I refuse to do so, which is why I always had a study hall. And my rule was if it doesn't get done in the class or at study hall, then I'm not doing it. I
Yeah,
should not be
and
doing it
look
outside of
look how
school.
he turned out, guys.
Turned out great. Two six-figure businesses, a wife and a kid, baby.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that that's insane. And as far as I would love for the
Yeah, no,
more
I
instruction.
highly disagree. Homework is absolutely needed. The more attention that you give to a child, the better educational outcome they have. I can tell you that firsthand as someone who works in a school. The idea, like the kids who go home and don't do anything academic versus the kids who go home and have an academic focus, it's like night and day. And especially at young ages, it's like fundamental. And there's also like studies that affirm this, that doing homework leads to better educational outcomes. So I think like
Sure, but
by homework
you're already, it's just like a Ouroboros. You're saying, yeah, for the educational outcomes that we want, which I'm saying we don't want those outcomes already. Those are the problem. The outcome is that kids can find imaginary numbers, but they don't know how to change their tire or balance a checkbook.
that's what
That's
I
not a
think parents
successful
that's what I think
educational
parents should
track.
teach. In
But
terms of changing a tire,
they
parents
can't
should
because
probably teach
their
that.
kids aren't with them
Right. When they
because
are,
they're at school for
they're
8 hours
then they're home.
for dinner, soccer practice, bedtime, homework. That's
If
it. There's
you want
no
to teach your kid how to change a tire rather than him be a soccer player, then you could prioritize that. I don't know what you mean. School is for learning and it should be more for critical thinking. And I agree with you that some of the classes should be different, but I
what
don't
I
know.
mean is if depending on where you go, what school district you're in, what age group you are, etc. Obviously the times of day are going to be slightly different, but basically, let's say you're home by 4 o'clock 4 p.m. Uh, and you wake up at 6 a.m. to get ready for school. Dinner takes, if you want to sit down and have a good dinner with your family, talk about what you did, 30 to 30 minutes, 45 minutes. So that's 1 hour gone. So now
That's
there's
all
really only
like
like,
stretching to the extremes. Like I was home by 3:30 every day. I would eat dinner in 20 to 30 minutes. I sat down with my family. We would eat in 20 to 30 minutes. And then I would have multiple hours in which I was free. I would go and first I would sit down, I would do my homework. My mom would make sure I would get through it. And then I would go and I would have multiple hours to go out and do stuff before my curfew. And then I could come home and then I could have free, like I would shower, all of that. And
yeah,
then I would be
like I
able to
said,
be in my
depends on the
room.
kid, depends on the family, depends on where you live. But from my estimation, you've got maybe 3 hours.
No, I highly disagree, but
Well,
I
my
am ready.
experience was 3 hours
Yeah.
at most because Pops isn't home until 6:30, so you're not eating until 6:30. Got bed. Oh, you guys, you got to take baths tonight. So bath time's at 8:30. That's only 2 hours right there, but we're eating at six
Sure. I mean, I
thirty.
also agree life could be structured in a way that allows more time at home with your children. Like you shouldn't have to work, but that's also a symptom of capitalism. But are you ready for my
Yeah,
big
yeah, yeah.
bold third
Yep, give
claim?
your last one. Yep.
All right. Children are better off attending drag story hour than church.
Oh my God, that's
I
insane.
think church indoctrinates children from a young age. I think it threatens eternal damnation for those who don't follow, which is like the worst kind of indoctrination. Drag Story Hour just teaches you that trans people exist. I think that going into Christianity, or I'll try to pronounce it right, Catholicism, leaves you statistically more likely to exhibit homophobia, Islamophobia. I don't know if there's data on the third, but I would wager transphobia as well. No such data exists for Drag Story Hour having the same outcomes, which again just teaches you that trans people exist. Being Christian or being religious as a whole makes you more likely to support leaders like Donald Trump, who are bigots. Most religious people who voted for Donald Trump. It makes you more likely to hold misogynistic beliefs, like justifying the fact that women can't lead the church, and you can't turn a child trans, so there's no indoctrination happening at Drag Story Hour. It's rather mundane, and if anything, it teaches inclusivity and gender expression, while the church teaches anti-scientific, outdated, homophobic, and misogynistic beliefs that a child then is more likely to believe.
All right. Well, first off, you've been caught in 4K, buddy. What do you mean, drag story hour teaches you about trans people. Are drag people or people who do drag trans?
What?
Are people who dress up in drag trans?
A lot of the themes of Drag Story Hour are LGBTQ based.
Sure, but what do you mean it teaches them that trans people exist? All it teaches them is
That's like
that
one of the main themes.
gay men dress up in makeup.
Have you ever watched a Drag Story Hour? They're like the main themes of them are they're reading like LGBTQ plus books to children typically. That's like the whole theme.
That's even worse. If it was drag
No, it's not.
drag story
It's
hour,
literally teaching
I
them that
thought
trans and gay
thought
people exist.
drag story hour was let's sit down and read Charlotte's Web, and I'm just in drag.
It's drag
now
people
it's even
doing
worse.
story time, which are
Yeah.
LGBTQ plus books.
Yeah, so now it's even. I don't know who's listening, who's a conservative, who naively like me thought it was drag people in drag reading Charlotte's Web or Arthur.
Yeah, it's
But
teaching them
apparently,
that trans people exist, while the church
no, you
is
just said
teaching
it's
that the earth is 6,000 years old and has a firmament and is flat, and that
Well, you-
women can't lead the
no,
church
no,
and that gay
that's-
people shouldn't get married.
no.
So I think that that's just a
the
little
church
bit more
doesn't teach that.
I think that's
no,
a
the
bit
church
more of
doesn't teach that.
indoctrination than
The
well,
church-
plenty of churches
well-
teach that, but I think that that's
Well,
a bit more
no.
of indoctrination than
No church teaches that.
plenty of churches teach creationism. I went to a creationist church. When
You
I
went
was
to
child.
you went
I
to a
would-
creationist ecclesial community. Yes, you did. But
Yes,
what-
I went to a church that taught creationism. I was taught that
In
evolution wasn't
ecclesial
real. I went to
community, yeah.
Sunday school, was taught that evolution wasn't a thing, that the earth is 6,000 years old. I was
In-
taught all of these things
well,
as a child.
yes,
In
at-
church.
at
In
an-
church, as a
at-
child. Do you
yeah,
agree
at an
with that being
ecclesial
taught- Do
community.
you agree with that being
yes.
taught to children?
Well, no, it's fake.
Okay, well, that's
Why would I
taught at
believe that?
church. It's taught at
It's
some
taught at
churches.
it's taught in ecclesial communities.
And
yeah,
it's not taught.
not in
and it-
church.
And it's not taught at Drag Story Hours. So I'm just saying.
It's taught in ecclesial communities, but not at church.
No, it's taught in a
but-
lot of churches. It's not just
It-
taught in
it's
ecclesial
caught in a lot of buildings and places where people use the term
Right,
church,
right,
but they aren't
right.
churches; they're ecclesial communities.
No,
But anyways,
that's not even okay.
let's not.
Every church that
gloss-
teaches it isn't a church. Okay.
Well, any church that's not
Yeah.
Catholic isn't a church.
Right,
So
right.
let's
Right,
clarify.
right. Right. Your specific church.
For the conservatives like me again, the mask is off. They're
Yeah,
are
they're
teaching
teaching
them
you that gay and
LGBT
trans people exist, guys. It's so evil.
Well, like I said, maybe you weren't aware because you're not on the right.
Mhm.
Or maybe I wasn't aware because I'm not on the
Yeah,
crazy right.
you were not
Uh,
aware. Everyone else was aware.
But for the most part, the idea is, hey, they're reading and they're in drag. Not, hey, they're reading and specifically indoctrinating the kids. I thought that was
They're reading, they're in drag, they're
right wing,
teaching about LGBTQ.
right wing.
acceptance. That's the themes of Drag Story.
Dog whistles, but apparently that's all true. So okay.
Yes, teaching people that gay people exist and trans people exist is such indoctrination.
But anyways, no, I mean the church teaches, obviously it teaches stuff like the fruit of the spirit, teaches stuff like the 10 commandments, don't lie, don't steal,
Like women
don't
can't leave the
murder,
church,
honor your mother and
Same-sex people shouldn't
father.
get married.
They can't get married.
Case in point.
So yeah, I mean, obviously, just look at the statistics, and you're going to see that
Higher
religious
rates of
people-
homophobia, higher rates
religious-
of Islamophobia, higher rates of misogyny. You will see all of those statistics if you look.
Well, if by bad definitions, I mean homophobia,
Right, right.
insane term.
Right,
Phobia means fear, so
right.
nobody's scared of gay people. So there's no
Right,
homophobes
right,
anywhere.
right,
That's not a real
right,
thing.
right.
Nobody's scared of trans people.
Homophobia
It's not a
isn't real.
thing.
This is the conclusion.
There are people who don't.
This is the conclusion
like
the
gay
church
people.
leads you to accept. Homophobia
There would-
isn't real, guys. You heard it here
maybe we can call it
first. You heard it here first.
homosexual. No, well that would be belief in it.
Right, right.
There are people who don't like gay people, but there's nobody who's afraid of them.
And
That's
in
not
the
real.
church is at much
Those are two
higher
different
rates than
things.
the general populace. That's for sure.
Um,
No, can you hear that? Okay, it stopped anyway. Never mind. There was a car alarm going off outside. But
Oh.
yeah, if you want to, you can wrap up.
Yeah,
your opinion
I'll
on that
get to
and
my
then
last one,
your
but
third one is where-
no, I think you're gonna see better outcomes if you look at religious people. Let's see. I'll pick this one. Hookup culture is what I'm calling it, but it's really more than that. And I'll explain. hookup culture is destroying adults and the children who come afterward. So when I say hookup culture, I'm talking about everything from friends with benefits to let's just screw on the first date to we're just going to date for 20 years and never get married. I'm basically saying the lack of respect for marriage and relationships is damaging to the adults who participate in these things and also to the children who come from these things if they end up conceiving children. And so the data for this casual sex is linked to greater depression, lower self esteem, especially in women. And then relationship fallout, men with multiple casual partners, they have lower satisfaction in marriage later in life. Loneliness, nearly 1 in 3 adults reports chronic loneliness. And I think that's due to no longer having long term, faithful relationships. And now it's sort of um, like I experienced this during my dating. You go on a date, maybe you really like them or whatever, and they're like, "Oh, I'm not looking for anything serious," and now you're like, "What a waste of my time," and you end up trying to find somebody who is interested, um, especially in that younger prime dating and marriage age of like late teens, early 20s, who actually wants to like take it seriously. For the children, father absence, not having kids in the homes is 4 times more likely to live in poverty, 2 times more likely to drop out of school, and more likely to be incarcerated. Children of divorced parents are 50% more likely to develop serious psychological issues. And of course, we've seen that the marriage rates have declined nearly 60% since the 1970s. So I think that overall, this whole system of not taking these things seriously and just kind of screwing around has had negative effects across the board. So that's my claim.
Yeah, I disagree. I think that pretty much all the claims you made are just economic claims. I think that people struggle because of symptoms of capitalism. I think income inequality is worse. Now, if you want to say that obviously these are going to be exacerbated in homes with only one income, I would agree with you. I don't think the solution is to like force people to stay married or whatever. I think the solution to that is to make it easier to live off one income. But like other than that, I don't know. I don't think that there's a lot of causal links there. I don't know like how you could show that having sex causes you to be depressed. I think that that's kind of insane. I think that there could be a correlation with single people being depressed and then an outlet for depression being sex, right? I think that that could be a strong answer there. I would say that it's probably just kind of assuming a conclusion from a number in data.
I mean, that's what the I don't know what you meant by that last
Like
bit. Like,
depression and obvious a behavior seen from depressed people is reckless. Like reckless behavior is a common thing that you can see in people who are depressed. I think that you could
oh,
easily
you're saying depressed people? So you're saying depressed people are more likely to have casual sex
yeah.
in general?
Hmm.
I would probably agree with that. To be fair, um, crap. What was the thing you said at the beginning there that I wanted to?
You're really low now. I don't know if you're talking low
Oh,
or
yeah.
okay, okay.
I was like muttering. I was saying,
Yeah.
oh, what was the thing? You said something at the very beginning that I wanted to address.
I said it's more about the symptoms of capitalism, income inequality. I said if you want to say it's as
Oh,
exacerbated by one income being
oh, yeah, I remember what it is now. Yeah, yeah, yeah. This is something that I notice a lot with the left that I'm not sure if it's intentional, subconscious, or if it's just that is one of the core differences between. But they always go to, like you said, I don't think we should force people to stay married or get married or whatever. No one ever brought up forced. Nobody's talking about forcing anybody. And I don't know if it's because that's how the left accomplishes all their stuff is they have to use the government, so they have to force people or what. But we are always talking about
oh, it's simple.
boots on the ground, shaking you, grabbing your face and saying, look, you're stupid. Here's the whatever, and changing people's hearts and minds. That is what
No, I
we
can't let you get
believe
away with
in.
that. Sorry. No, it's because so many people on the right who are definitely the biggest people, you have like Andrew Wilson, Michael Knowles, who come to mind, are like staunch
I
proponents.
didn't know you knew Andrew Wilson.
Yeah, staunch proponents
I
of
hate that guy.
you
So
can't have divorce. No, what is it? I can't think of what it is. No, no fault divorce or
fault
whatever.
divorce.
Yeah, they want to get rid of that. I'm sure you might even be against that. Honestly, I'm not even sure that you think that that's a good thing. So I'm just saying, like, and these are the reasons when I'm saying that the right answer isn't to force people, is because I don't know where you're going when you say these things, but a
The
lot of
right answer
people,
is to show them that their views are stupid and show them better views so that they fix their views. That's the right answer for
right. So what's
every
your
issue in
opinion on no
society.
fault divorce?
So that you pegged me correctly. I don't know if I would abolish it necessarily, but I
Yeah,
think it has
exactly.
problems.
Exactly. That's what I mean. So then
Um,
you're making this whole thing about like nobody said anything about force, but
but that's not force.
you would get rid
It's
of
like
no fault divorce.
okay, would you look if I get a student loan to go to
You know why
college?
no fault divorce
Hold
was
on.
made, right?
If if I get a student loan to go to college
What was
and then I'm
happening
like
to women before no fault divorce?
if I get a student loan to go to college and I signed a contract, a covenant, an agreement, and then they're like, you have to still pay it.
Yeah, yeah,
Are they
yeah. And then you
forcing
go
me
to
or
the
did I
college,
force
and then
or
you
did
go
I
to the
force
college.
myself?
Yeah, no, no. A more
Did
apt
I force
analogy.
myself or am I being forced?
No, no, a more apt analogy is you do all that, you sign it, and then you go to the college, and the college just starts just beating the ever living crap out of you.
No,
Uh, it,
it's
it
not
it
that.
it cheats
It's
on
not
you
that.
with your friend, and
Nope,
lets your friend
because
come
nope,
and take its
nope,
classes for you,
nope,
and then it's like, hey, you still have to
nope,
pay.
because we all support legal separation and annulment. So that's just not true.
Right? Why was no fault divorce created?
Enlighten me.
It's because women were being abused, even if not physically, well, physically in ways they couldn't prove, mentally and emotionally in ways that wouldn't qualify for these kinds of divorce you're talking about. And they
I
were,
mean,
because of that, they were killing themselves at higher rates. And we were seeing a lot more negative outcomes from women because of
I don't
the
know that there's any
mental and
requirements for legal separation. I could be wrong. There might be, but I don't know that there is.
I think with, I mean, I don't know the exact, like what you're talking about, legal
So
separation.
legal separation is where you know how when you get married, like my wife's money, her
I
paycheck,
think that's
I have
where,
equal ownership of that
don't both
because we're
people have to
married.
consent to that though?
Not the consent was getting married. So that's
No, I
how
mean like
marriage.
the separation. Don't both people have to say,
Oh,
we
for
want to
legal
separate?
separation, you might be right on that. I don't
And I
know
think that was what the problem was. I don't know with
that.
that was what it was for a lot of other kinds. I don't know
Okay,
like
so
with
you know what it is. You just weren't sure about the.
I don't know
Yeah,
exactly with what that is per se.
well, one of the examples that I was about to say. So like you know how like yeah, my wife's paycheck, I can go spend it, vice versa.
Mhm.
It's technically legally under the law both of our money. Legal separation, like that's one of the things that breaks. It separates it so then the abuser can't like control your money or do anything. He doesn't like have as equal. He can't sign a credit card under your name or whatever. Like
Yeah.
none of that stuff is allowed anymore. But you're still married. It's just you're separated legally under in the books. But
But you're still married? Like, come on, what?
um, well, I mean, I would support I would get an annulment at that point. I would say um,
What is an
that is
annulment? Is that when is that a
and
divorce?
it people like to call it a Catholic divorce, but it basically says like let's say
This is what I
um,
mean, though. This is what I mean.
let's say let me explain what an annulment is. So let's say like I got married. Well, I don't know if I want to use me. Let's say Billy Bob Johnson gets married to Sarah Huckabee, and Billy Bob Johnson, while he's dating Sarah Huckabee, has a CP addiction. Um, Sarah Huckabee has no idea. They get married. 5 years later, what's the guy who busts into your house?
Chris Hansen.
Yeah, yeah. Gets oh boy Billy Bob Johnson or whatever. An annulment would say Sarah Huckabee did not consent to marrying a CP addicted guy. She did not know, he was not forthcoming. You can't sign a contract or make a deal without having full consent of
Right.
the
What
will. And
about a
so
much less kind of like, can you get an annulment for emotional stress? Can you get it for mental trauma? Can you get it because, hey, he bullied me every day and told me I was ugly and fat? Like,
um like
see the hesitation right there. That's what I'm
well,
saying.
I'm not on an annulment I don't know
This is what I
couches,
mean. And this
but
is why I use words like force,
the,
because you
well
want
the
to add
problem is
all these obstacles
well,
to the
here's the
escape
problem. Then
route
what
for
is
women.
marriage? Because for better or for worse.
No,
So
no, I
okay,
don't
so then
care. I
what?
don't.
So
Mar-
yeah, so
oh
then
my
you
God.
just
you're essentially saying I
For
don't
better or for worse,
believe
even
in
through
marriage.
abuse, even through abuse.
I no, but I'm saying,
Okay, so
what does
then
that mean? What does that mean? Does that mean anything or no?
what does what mean?
For better or for worse? What does that mean?
I think it means that, like, hey, even on like a bad day, you guys can still be fine. But I don't think a bad day is abuse. I think that there's
Well, I
a difference there. I think a bad day is
what
like, hey, maybe like I'm annoyed by you today, or maybe like I'm tired and I don't have the energy to give to you today. Like we'll still try for each other just like we would on our best day, right? But like I don't think it means, hey, if you like abuse me every day or you tell me I'm fat and ugly, that I'm gonna still love you, you know?
yeah, I don't know if still love necessarily, but
Stay with you.
definitely not abuse, like I said. But what I'm saying is, in my opinion, or I should say my understanding, in sickness and in health, for better or for worse. So sickness and health and richer for poor are already spoken for. So for better or for worse is not talking about finances, and it's not necessarily talking about sickness or in health. So it's got to be talking about something else, a third thing. And to me, it's saying, even if being with you, okay, now I gotta, I've got another person I gotta worry about. It's inconveniencing me. It is making my life worse. That's not necessarily like, oh, I'm mildly
Yeah,
inconvenienced, therefore
no,
it's over. It's saying, no, just because life gets hard doesn't mean that the marriage is just done.
no, no, I don't agree with that at all. But I
Right.
just
And
think
so,
it
from
means
my
I
view,
just
I would say you just don't agree with the institution of marriage. You probably would just think getting married is a crazy
right.
thing to
I
do.
don't agree with the institution of marriage because I think that women who are being abused should have an easy route out.
Well, like I said, everybody agrees abusive people getting abused need to
Except you don't
leave the
support no
situation.
fault divorce. You think that the
Because I don't
advocate
support
and
because I don't
enrollment,
because I don't support
which doesn't apply to things like mental or emotional abuse. You think that there should be legal separation, which both
I
parties have
have
consent
we got
to.
to wrap it up, but I have somebody in my life who got divorced um because essentially what happened was they were trying to conceive. They or they went to the doctor was like, you can't. And both of them obviously dreamed of wanting to have kids, and the woman who couldn't conceive was like, I'm going to divorce you, husband, because I know that you want to have kids. And the husband was saying, okay, but I don't want to have kids as much as I want to have you. And the woman was saying, oh, but you deserve better, so I'm going to leave. And so the husband, without any choice, without any option of his, no recourse whatsoever to protect this, because the female is feeling, woe is me, and he deserves someone better, and in my opinion is just self-sabotaging and
Totally
spiraling.
valid. 100% valid. I don't know. I guess we just have to agree to disagree. We will wrap there. Maybe
You
we'll,
think that's 100% a valid divorce?
yes. And I think that maybe we could debate that or something for a debate
That's
topic. I didn't
crazy.
know we were so far apart on marriage, but let us know what you guys think of our hot takes in the comments. Let us know if you thought, who you thought's closer to reality on some of these, what the spiciest one was. We're here every Wednesday, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Subscribe, like wherever you are on Spotify, on YouTube, on Substack. We appreciate each and every one of you. And until next time, peace.
Peace.